Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the Volpe Report. I'm your host, Domenic Volpe. Just as a side note, we'd like to welcome all the new viewers to our program. We've been in the Peekskill Cortland area since the beginning, I believe, of April of this year, but we've just been added on into a new system area, so we'd like to welcome all our new viewers. Any comments, you can always reach us. At the end of this program, we'll have the email address for any comments or anything you'd like to hear run. As far as our guest tonight, we have John Curran, who is the historian for the city of Peekskill. Welcome, John, to our program.
Thank you, Dominic.
All right, and let's get right into it. What is a civic historian?
The New York State requires that every community have an historian, whether it's on the county, city, town, or even village and hamlet level. Mm-hmm. And I was selected as the Peekskill historian in 1994, so it's been more than a decade that I've been doing this job.
Very good.
And the primary responsibility is to inform the general public about the history of that particular community. And from the example of previous historians in Peekskill, there was Chester Smith and Carlton Schofield and...
well, Chester Smith is one that comes to mind that I think, I mean, dating back to early, mid-1940s or even before
right.
that.
It's very well known.
That was always a well-known, as a matter of fact.
And he produced probably the best single volume about Peekskill history, the big hardcover book, the pictorial history.
I see.
In 1952, and I still use it as a reference because it has a very good index. It's well illustrated, and if anyone is looking for one single source, I still recommend that. Probably is the best one.
Where can you find that book? Is it something like in the City of Peekskill Field Library?
Yes.
Or okay.
The library, the museum, and occasionally it's up for sale. It's a highly collectible book.
Oh.
And I think.
Can we go online for that?
You might, but as you said, probably the Field Library is still the best single source.
Okay.
So following that, the previous examples of what other historians have done, I tried to follow in that path.
Sure.
In other words, you put things together in a publication form so that other people, can share it. Basically, that's what it's about.
Sure.
And I started with this very simple little publication right here. It's called Peekskill: A Chronological History, telling things through time.
That was your first foray into
Yes, this is the first single
What
publication.
year did you, what year
I forget exactly. 97.
Oh, so it was almost at the beginning of your tenure into this.
Yeah, that's about right. And even for my own understanding, just to put things in order when they happened. And so that turned out to be very useful. And then after that, because George Pataki was then the governor, and he's a Peekskill person, went to public schools and so on.
Sure.
A lot of people were asking about George Pataki's background, his family, his neighborhood, and where did he come from, and things like that.
Put that right here. Just hold it steady.
So I did this one here. It's called The Influence of Hungarian Immigrants in Peekskill.
Gotcha.
And it does, track the people around what were then called the hat shop, where many of these immigrants came to work. And Pataki is a Hungarian name, and so pretty much that's what that was about.
Sure.
And along the line of trying to provide information to the general public, I realized that another way to do that would be with video. And so in collaboration with the Alberti Video Studio then in Peekskill, we made this tape here called Peekskill in Perspective. It's almost an hour long and tries to show the whole span of, Peekskill's
Now, is that also something that it can be accessed through you or
Well,
through
right now it's
museum?
It's available only really in the library.
Okay.
It's out of print. When it was produced, it was sold and it was all sold out. And if anything, it needs to be put on DVD. And to take it to the next step.
Right, and I see right there it says narrated by Jerry Desmond. That voice goes back to the years with WLNA, WHUD.
That's right.
In the early years for many years. As a matter of fact,
Right.
I just came into the store just the other day, and that voice still penetrates people. So I'm sure it's
Jerry recently retired from WLNA.
Right.
He still does other things, as we know.
Right.
But he's the narrator on this video. And we also did the Peekskill on postcards. and in collaboration with the Field Library, because Peekskill is fortunate as an older Dutch originated community to have such a long and interesting history, beginning with the settlement and then the industry and then the different factories.
Sure, everything goes back to he was a Dutch trader. Jan Peek was his name,
right.
I believe, and he settled somewhere along the Ansville Creek, I believe, was the area where the trading post, and that's kind of how Jan Peek, and it became Peeks. Right. Actually, the word for what is it, river or stream in Dutch is kill, and that's why you notice it's Peekskill in a sense, and Jan Peekskill. Yes.
And there you go. You have a good part of the story right there. Before it's not a digression, but to bring it up to date, by the way, New York State is sponsoring what they call the Quadricentennial. That is a review or focus on the previous 400 years of Hudson Valley, New York, and Peekskill history. And there have been several civic meetings so far. I've been attended one at the school district and also with the Parks and Recreation, sponsored by the city.
Oh, very nice.
And these are the people who have an interest in this topic, and in these committees trying to focus on what they're going to do. It's going to be 2009. That'll be the 400 years since Henry Hudson came up the river on the Half Moon in 1609.
Sure.
So that's something that's going on right now.
And they plan, I'm sure, a big gala event like
there are all different kinds of things that the focus is going to be. Also, even the Dutch embassy, I believe, is somewhat involved with this. Taking a lead in some of the things having to do with the Dutch heritage.
Sure, because of those they kind of were, I mean, other than the Native American Indians who were here, really, they from the other side of the ocean, they were the first ones. The Dutch really had a big stronghold in this area, in a sense. So
that's right.
So I guess they want to have a little partnership in this whole event.
That's right.
Good. Go ahead. Continue.
Well, just to continue with things to inform the general public. This is a publication I edited and published some years ago. It's called My Memories of 100 African American Peekskill Families by Ethel Jackson, recently deceased. I think she died in 2003. Wow. Because it's a topic that was generally overlooked, and this is a memoir of her own experiences and knowledge of these families. So this was also useful to put out.
Sure, there do seem to be in Peekskill specifically families that of our African American brothers and sisters that have been there. It's not like they're just transient where they're just here for 2-3 years and they're gone. I mean, growing up in Peekskill and attending schools, the same families were the same uncles and aunts of the fellows that I went to school with. My uncle and aunts, and my younger brothers go to school with their younger children. So it seems like they really continue. It's not like they just came into the area and moved on. They really do stick
that's a
around
good
the
point.
area for many
There
years.
have been several mainline families, and I did some new research on that topic, and I came up with this publication called Peekskill's African American History. And you're right. For example, the Mosiers and the Petersons and the Greens, and there's some others that I don't pop to mind right now, but they're in the book. That have been here, before the Revolution, and so that is part of the local history and the national history as well. And it's a very interesting topic to follow, to see how things have changed through the years, through this point of view. And that's pretty much what that story is about. Of course, you also have to deal with some of the topical events, the Robeson concert events in 1949. I try to deal with that in here as well. Even though that was really situated on the outskirts, but still Peekskill was the main hub at that time. The controversy of the topic itself is that at that time, people in 1949 called it the Peekskill riots, even though it did happen within the town of Cortland, and specifically on Oregon Road in Van Cortlandville and so on. I've always sort of challenged that designation. If you're going to name a place, name an event for the location that took place, you should at least try to be accurate about it. Whereas if you called it the Robeson concert thing, it sort of covers that.
Well, I think prior to,